Kingdom Hearts, the Disney and Final Fantasy crossover, has over time moved away more and more from most Final Fantasy characters in favor of an ever-expanding cast of original characters complemented by the worlds and characters from the different Disney movies. That is partly explained by the fact that there are no real Final Fantasy worlds in any of the games, except maybe if you consider some of the more neutral worlds like Twilight Town, Destiny Island, Traverse Town, and of course, Radiant Garden, the place where most of the more important Final Fantasy characters seem to originate from, like Squall, Aerith, Cid, Yuffie, etc. Regardless of any of that, Kingdom Hearts usually excels at adapting characters and storyline from their original material into its own universe. That includes all of the Disney characters, but also the aforementioned important Final Fantasy characters from Radiant Garden. But out of all the more minor Final Fantasy characters present in other areas, I think that none are more expertly adapted than Vivi Ornithier. Vivi, Final Fantasy IX's very own Black Mage party member, is probably one of the best written characters among all of the countless party members in all of Final Fantasy's history. I say this because he is a character that has a very interesting and complex subplot that makes him go through an entire arc of growth and self-discovery throughout the game, which also works in a way that further deepens the symbolism of the entire story. It is a character arc that is defined by the existentialist philosophy, which is present all throughout the game's messaging. Existentialism is a way of thinking that was mostly popularized in the 20th century by philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, and Albert Camus. And it is, in a very simple summary, defined by the way we view ourselves as human beings and the meaning that we can give to our own lives. Essentially, our existence is not entirely defined by what we are, which would instead be called essentialism, but is instead about how we think about who we are. Okay, but enough about me talking about a subject that I'm really not good at explaining. Let's talk some more about Vivi. When we start off the adventure, Vivi is a meek and shy child who doesn't understand what his purpose in life is supposed to be. Upon finding out that he is in fact a Black Mage, a manufactured creature whose purpose is to serve as an easily disposable, mindless soldier, his perception of reality temporarily breaks as he struggles to cope with his own existence. Is he a monster? Was he made to serve? Is he truly alive? Etc. But, helped by the support of his newfound friends, he eventually learns that Black Mages other than him can also gain consciousness and develop feelings like compassion and fear. But, most importantly, he also comes to understand that life has the meaning that you want it to have, not the one imposed by others. Also, death becomes a scary concept for Vivi. How can we truly live if one day we are all doomed to die? Vivi's journey to see the world has taught him many things, but most importantly, that the answer to life itself can only be found within ourselves. As mentioned earlier, I think that Vivi's appearance in Kingdom Hearts 2 is a subtle but very meaningful representation of his characterization in his original source material. Down to the fact that he is very likely to become a follower, never a leader. Cypher serving as a stand-in for Puck's or Zidane's role in Vivi's life. Though Cypher is obviously much less of a wholesome influence on Vivi than what Zidane eventually becomes. Vivi has very little self-confidence and tends to gravitate towards others whenever he feels unsure about what to do. That doesn't mean that he can't be independent at all, or that he is useless. It's just that he likes finding groups to belong to, whether that be with his grandfather, Zidane's party, the other Black Mages, or in the case of KH2, the disciplinary committee. Finding a place to belong to is also one of the major themes in Final Fantasy IX after all. Other than that, Vivi's internal struggles with understanding the concept of the meaning of life, identity, death, but most importantly his condition as a Black Mage, are all, in a way, represented in Kingdom Hearts by the Nobodies. In fact, I am very confident in saying that Vivi's inclusion in KH2 as a nobody was very intentional and not a coincidence at all. Besides, I might be wrong, but I think that Vivi is also the only Final Fantasy character present in Kingdom Hearts who wasn't originally designed by Tetsuya Nomura, which to me makes his inclusion seem even more specific. Beyond the fact that he looks like a Heartless, the other side of the Kingdom Hearts non-human coin, Black Mages in Final Fantasy IX and Nobodies in Kingdom Hearts are very analogous creatures. They are both empty, animated husks with a puppet motif. But they can still gain consciousness, individuality, seek meaning in life, and maintain the desire to fight for the right to exist. All of this to say that much like how Vivi and the Black Mage's existential crisis serve as a prelude to Zidane's later character development within Final Fantasy, they can also be taken as a parallel to the tragedy of Roxas and his condition as an afterthought within Sora's consciousness. Roxas also being a nobody struggling for the right to exist as his own entity, as a real person. He is considered by some as only a part of Sora, and by others as a simple tool to serve their machinations. But for Roxas, all he ever wanted was to have his own existence, to be his own individual, free from the burden of Sora and the Keyblade, and free to hang out with his friends. So in conclusion, whether you were born with loving parents, created in a lab, hatched from an egg, or born from someone else's heart, you can still move past what you are to develop who you are and maybe even make some friends along the way. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed the video. Bye.